All right. Good morning, good evening, right? Coming
Hey,
from
Michael.
Dubai.
Yes, 7:27 here, PM.
Yeah, we got, I think it's a 9 hour difference, right? Yeah, about 10:30, correct. Yeah. But yeah, before the chocolate delivery, we were talking about, the Gladiator Summit, really how you got into that. That was interesting though. You brought up a good point with the Gladiator Summit you do when you drop the price, right? What was the decision about dropping the price? Because there's some connection to kind of what I'm doing now
There's a
and how.
threshold when you do events, there's a threshold where people, I'll give you an example like Netflix or Apple membership, right? It's so insignificant. So many people pay those fees, they don't even bother checking. For them to check to see if the membership is on or the Apple membership is working, or they just pay. Okay, so there's a threshold when it comes to personal development where people will go, you know what, I'll just take a punt. It won't make a difference. And if I don't like it, I can walk out. So I went from $3,000 to $1,000 a ticket, and that was my VIP tickets. So I went down all the way down to $200, and it was a full day, and then extended to 2 day seminar.
But what about you were saying something about people wanting the one-on-one connection though, right? Because I always believe the one-on-one is always the best and we were talking about social media a bit because there's only so much you can get over social media. The information doesn't land unless the person's actually ready.
Mm,
So they have to make those personal energetic shifts to be able to prepare themselves to actually, what you're saying, for actually
sure,
land.
sure.
Um, so I always think that's extremely valuable. But you still do one-on-one like in person?
And not as much. I just do it to people who can afford to pay me, right? Because if you're selling your time, you never get rich.
Right.
And last year I calculated I was giving away about 40 hours a month of my time trying to help people for free. And not
Hmm.
one single person took action. The moment you
Yeah, right.
charge, the moment you charge, they value it and they take action.
Yeah, it's
So
so crazy. A
yeah,
lot of people say with the spiritual stuff, they go, "Why do you charge for the spiritual stuff?" I'm like, I would love to give it away for free, but it's this weird kind of paradox. Is like if it's free, you don't value it, right?
if
You
you
think
don't
it's like,
value it, if you don't value it because you're giving away free, why should they? Right?
yeah,
What's the
exactly,
message you're sending out? Right?
right? Hey, I put all my time and energy and all this stress and stuff to actually achieve this
Experience.
thing. Yeah.
Exactly. So it all comes ultimately to self-worth, right? So if you have high self-worth, it should be quite easy to charge. Now, the good thing with me is I'm still working on my self-worth, but I actually don't give a shit, right? So financially, I'm okay. So when people say, can I work with you? I say, yeah, this is my fee. And if you don't like it, it's okay. It's okay. But 10, 15 years ago when I had nothing, I was thinking, please go ahead, because I need to cover rent. So the energy shifts. When you have money, the energy shifts. You're more aligned with your determination and certainty that you're not going to take anything cheap.
So where did the big shift happen for you? Because reading in your bio, usually when people want to serve, it's because we were lacking those things previously. I always say it's 3 steps, and I see this all the time when I do these podcasts. It's we have an issue, we come to that point where we're like, oh, we have to change it. We usually align with a mentor or somebody who can solve that issue, and then we share it with other people.
Mm.
So what that look like for you? I saw in your bio it was saying when you were brought up as a kid, you didn't really have that accessible to you. Now
It's
that's
not
why you want
as
to
a
share it.
child you kind of accept it, but as an adult, I was extremely popular when I was rich. But when I lost everything, nobody wants to know. And lots of people who I thought loved me disowned me, right? And it was a lonely place knocking on doors in a new country and trying to build a reputation. And I had 3 children at the time and having to come home and look at them and like, Dad, when am I going to go to school? Because I couldn't afford the school fee. Then along the way, I'm a little bit naive and stupid. And along the way, I started tracking all my mistakes and everything else. And I thought, you know what? Some of these are good lessons. What if I just share them? And there could be some poor fellow, poor sod like me, somewhere in the world, needs my assistance, and it doesn't cost anything. So I just started sharing, and somebody said, you have a good story to share. So I went on Facebook, and sorry, I went on to this seminar and I did a talk, and somebody opened a Facebook page. And today I got 500,000 followers on Facebook. And then just prior to a couple of years before COVID, started an Instagram page, and now I've got, I think, 3.5 million followers on Instagram.
Oh, that's
But
awesome.
you got to be sometimes I think to myself, you know what? Surely people are sick of my own voice. I'm sick of my own voice, sick of my own face, sick of my own voice. And then you meet someone out the blue who says, you know what? Your message has saved me. Thank you. And the moment I'm thinking about just quitting and giving up and thinking, what's the point of all this? Somebody appears from the universe thanking me for my messages. And I think, God damn it, you had to send him right now. So I
Yeah,
just
right.
continue. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, it fills you up. I think that's why, there's a lot of Instagram is all about getting the stuff, right? It's not really about the fulfillment. And it sort of go hand in hand though, because, it's a byproduct of who we are. Like you said, the self-worth. But I see a lot of people only, one of my favorite questions to ask guys is like, well, then what? What's next? And most guys can't really even ask that because they're so stuck at that same level. They keep maxing out that same level and they're not willing to let go of, level one to get to level two.
Well, you know what I
Was that,
think most people do is that the way I see the world is unique to me. Even if I had a twin sibling, they see the world differently to how I see it. So, and you see the world differently to the way I see it. We're unique, right? So, our life, my 58 years of life, is filled with my stories, right? The stories I tell myself from my experiences, the way I viewed the world. And to me, they're true. To me, they're real. Okay, but somebody else looking at me thinking, "Oh, it's not real." What I find is most people set themselves limited beliefs and they make excuses. They label the jar, they label themselves, they label their behavior, and they don't achieve what they could achieve, which is total abundance. And they say, what next? Because they truly don't see what the next step is. They kind of think, is this it? And they fit within this box, these limitations they've set themselves. So I think life's a journey, right? And the moment you stop, you die. And every single time you grow, you're learning something new about yourself. So, in my humble opinion, it's the journey that we should enjoy and the uncertainty of
what's
it.
Yeah, it's the fun stuff. I think once you get to a point where you figure yourself out, then life becomes a game. It's more enjoyable. And then you actually look for challenge. You say, "Oh, that's exciting, right? How can I do
Mm.
this one?" Right?
Yeah,
I think
you
it's
kind of figure yourself that you're only human, right? You're not a machine. You're going to make mistakes. Nobody beats me up like I do, right?
yeah,
And I should be kinder to myself. I should look in the mirror, the way shape I am, the hairstyle I've got, everything, and go, you know what? I actually like myself. And maybe one day I'll love myself. So I'm not going to allow anybody else's comments or anything to get to me.
yeah. From your perspective, why do you think people constantly want to grow and progress? Like, what is that? What's that
I don't
natural
think
urge that
people
we?
do. I think majority of people don't. That's the sad side. I think majority of people die and they die of frustration and
But do you think that causes the frustration, though? Do you think there's a natural urge that our soul has to say, "Hey, we want to constantly grow and progress," but then we don't know how. We don't know the structure of the
well, I don't
plan.
think people do. I think what happens is if you know there's a time scale in your life is a short time, it's a brief moment in time. If you know that you actually want to go from somewhere from A to B, I think most people think they're going to live forever. Most people that are walking, in my humble opinion, most people are walking zombies.
Oh yeah,
They work, they pay their taxes, they die. And then
yeah.
just before they die and life flashes in front of them, they go, fuck, I lived somebody else's life or I lived somebody else's, limitations. And if they just decide that that day is going to come, that day is going to come. It's more real when I'm in my late 50s and you're, in your 20s.
30,
The
yeah.
future seems such a long way away. By that time, hopefully, old age is a bonus. Hopefully, that time will come, and you look back and go, "Wow, I lived everything. I lived it to the best I could," and that's a really life worth living. But most
Yeah.
people, unfortunately, live life to other people's limitations.
Yeah, they give up all their control because they don't want to find the control themselves. They don't want to build themselves. I think even with abundance, it's like it's there right in front of your face, but you still have to just like the gym. So you have to go in and put the consistency and the hard work and everything in to actually prepare yourself to actually be worthy. Like it's everything in life we have to build up to that point. And just I think a lot of people today are, well, I just exist. Why won't this thing just fall in my lap? It's like, well,
They don't even say, "I just exist." They said, "Let's not talk about it." That's what they avoid. They put it aside,
yeah,
right? And they get concerned about what they hear on the news or the weather or the 4 week holiday that somebody's decided to give them once a year. It's just sad. But here's what I've learned, Michael, is that I ask myself the question whether I'm trying to help people or I'm trying to rescue people. Okay. Now, I've realized that too often I try to rescue people. So what does that mean? Is that I see someone, they don't want help. They're
You
actually
shouldn't.
happy. Yeah. And I see the potential in them. Right. So I kind of, what I feel is I'm helping them. I take them out of where they are and elevate them somewhere else. And then after a brief period of time, when they reach it, they think, actually, I'm not happy here anyway. I was happy where I was. And they resent you. They resent me. Right. And they go, I was happy. You brought me here. So now I'm more aware of helping people when they come and ask for help. And I get them to qualify why they want help. Okay. Because you only want change when you've reached enough pain.
Yeah.
Yes.
Unfortunately, it has to be like that. But yeah, I understand what you're saying between trying to rescue people, whether when somebody asks for help, they have this space to actually be able to receive, right? If they're
Yes.
not, if they're full of their own crap and opinions, and we're saying, hey, I gotta drag you along. There's no room to do that, and that's why
Absolutely.
somebody who naturally loves people and wants to help people all the time, it's like I think that's the hardest part about being that type of person, because like you just said, we see potential in people and they don't see it themselves, but you can only help somebody that wants to help themselves. And that's
A
you know
friend of mine who unfortunately died quite young, he said, don't help anyone unless they come and ask for it. And then they appreciate, they value it, and they do something about it.
yeah.
Uh, you have to, because I always look at myself first. And the question I ask is, am I helping people because I truly love people? Or am I helping people to get love in return? And that's love buying. I'll give you a very simple example. Have you ever opened a door in a public place, open a door for someone, somebody goes through and they don't say thank you and you go, you're welcome. And you kind of like hate them for it and you want to go and punch them. Yes.
It's mostly
Often,
you.
yeah. And the thing is, right, that person who you open the door for didn't know what the equation was, didn't sign up for it. You open the door to get a thank you back. And they're just oblivious. They live in their own world, right? And when they don't say thank you, we get pissed off. Just because we're not giving love unconditionally, we're giving it, we're attaching a condition to it. And that's where I think you have to differentiate. Are you actually helping people unconditionally? Or are you helping someone to get something in return, which is love or connection or significance, right?
Yeah, no, I like that. I believe you give, you can't expect anything back unless you're willing to give it first. I look at it that way. So if I do hold a door, if I do give love, it's not that I have expectations or conditions I have to have it back. But if I want to be open to somebody, maybe I walk through a door and somebody, here you go, sir, watching me through the door, there would be appreciation. But that's the way I look at it first. If I want anything to change in life, I have to be willing to take action first, to then be able to receive it as well, right?
Yeah,
It's
you
like,
open the universe up, yeah, and then to receive. Exactly.
yeah,
But then probably you say thank you too much, right? So I'll give you an example. I go to a restaurant and the waiter's serving me, and I say thank you to him 20 times. And then you realize actually it's his job. Okay. And maybe one thank you is sufficient, right? So sometimes manners can be used to, again, love by. We got to be very, very careful. I love when somebody says thanks once and acknowledges and they're cool. Yes, it's a thank you, thank you. Every freaking 30 seconds, I'm thanking them, right? And then they come and ask for a tip. Okay, and I'm like, oh my God, I thanked you so many times. So yeah, it's a fine balance. It's a fine balance, in my humble opinion. And the best place to be is give love unconditionally and don't care whether it comes back or not. People like
oh,
Martin Luther King, Gandhi, all these people. And
yeah.
they
I was
died
so
for their belief and their
All right.
love.
And then the spiritual path, we teach people to how to bring divinity into their own life, right? How to create like God, how to become, God in your own sense. Because we're at
Well,
the center of our
God's within us, right? God's within us.
right. Yeah, yeah.
That's where we're different to dogs and cats because we have the power of choice. Yeah.
But when we take
Please.
that, I was having a good conversation the other day about if you're studying God, okay, who is God? If you're thinking about God as a father, and you have kids as well, I have a daughter, it's when your kids do something wrong, you don't you still love them. You never lose love for your kids no matter what they do,
Correct.
right? So
Correct.
I look
Correct.
at God that way too. It's like, okay, we can mess up and then we still have love. but we are the ones blocking that love. And I think that goes for other people as well, not having expectations and not making it transactional, kind of as you said. Like, why are we helping people? Is it generally for them, or is it because we're trying to receive
Our
something?
own fulfillment, correct.
Right. And I think that's a really good way to look at it. If we're helping people, it's like, you know, I believe as we grow and progress, we become parents in many different ways, right? To our children, to our friends, to anybody we're helping. And it's just continuously sharing that love. Hopefully they're able to receive that, but not having the attachment expectation to that, right? And if they do something that's bad or whatever, we still love them, but it's like, okay, let them have their own experience. Then when they're able, sort of what you're saying, when they're saying, hey, I actually need help, then we can give them even more, and then they're able to grow from there.
So it sounds easy, but I still say yes more than I say no.
What's that?
Sometimes you can have to when people ask, right? Or they honestly, what it's like on social media. I get messages every day, people crying, send me some money. The other day, somebody said, send me some money to upgrade my phone. I thought, at least you're honest, and it's ridiculous. And there's certain amount of work people have to put into themselves, right? They have to graft, because if you don't graft, if you don't work, and you just abdicate responsibility, again, change is not going to happen. It's not going to last, right? So um, I'm about business, and there's a lot of people out there who are in the spiritual world or the giving world who don't have much money.
Hmm.
Okay, and it's sad to see, because they're going to have a better relationship with money, and money is energy, right? So if you really value yourself, and you really value what you're bringing on the table for the other person, in return, the energy of money should be paid back to you, right? Because that piece of paper is only an IOU.
Right.
Yes, it doesn't mean anything. It's just that you put a meaning to it. So I would love it that people like yourselves, who in a spiritual world want to give and love and spread the, you know, spirituality, they should also be rich.
Yeah, there has to be an even exchange. Otherwise, if you
Mm.
keep giving, 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 you're just going to drain yourself, right? You really can only share with an overflowing cup. And I think that's where people can
Love
easily
that.
become martyrs. And I've seen it all over the spiritual community is there's usually two things. They're either very loving and they're not able to balance the proper boundaries, kind of the tough love to actually move people forward. They're give, 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 and it just depletes themselves. Or the other side of that is they sort of just stay in the spiritual realms and kind of avoid the responsibility of us being here. And
Yes.
my mission is always blend both of these worlds, because I believe the spiritual realms, whichever faith you might have, that builds the energy and helps us progress, so we can then apply it in this road. Behind here is Kabbalah, the tree of life, and this is how bring divinity into Malkuth. Malkuth is the physical world, so this is ideally bringing the kingdom on earth, right? It's
Yeah.
uplifting and refining our
Mm.
experience here. So it's you can't have, some people try to have one without the other, but I think it's a bit of avoidance. It's
It's avoidance. That's you got it. And two things you just said that I've never heard before. Because I think your cup should be overflowing. Everybody says half empty, half full, but I've never heard it say overflowing. And I'm proud of it, because I say that. I say your cup should be overflowing. And it's the avoidance, I look in the mirror. Oh, just anyway, I'll move on. Yes. People don't like to, unfortunately, point fingers rather than take charge. When you point three fingers, point back at yourself, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
the best place to start is ourselves. Ego, put the ego aside, because at the end of the day, nobody cares. End of the day, we're going to die. Who gives a shit for eternity? For eternity. And you let your ego blind you. And it's a shame, right? Because your ego is only hiding your fears, right?
yeah,
Protecting you against your fears. Yeah.
yeah. Like there's actually a book. What is it? It's on the bookshelf back there.
I'm going to take a
Uh,
pen and write it down. I'm going to write
the
it down.
book.
Yeah. What's the title?
Course in Miracles.
Okay. Course
This is a
in
good.
Miracle.
That's a course. Yeah, Course in Miracles. I should know. It's an 1,800 page book. It took forever to read,
Whoa. Let's say
but
I'll
it's
skip that.
very. I can skip you 1,800 pages in 10 seconds. It's basically saying everything comes down to either love or fear.
Yeah.
So you just
Yeah.
saved yourself a year of reading right there, right?
It's like setting yourself goals, right? Goals are not enough to get you somewhere, but the fear of not going to where pain is also is a motivator, right? So if I want to achieve something, I'd rather have my goal and then hate to go back to that pain. So I got double the shift of achieving it. Most people just set goals. They don't have a fear of going back or their life not growing or being the same.
It's usually, I think you said this already, but people don't really change until they hit the rock bottom or rock bottom for whatever situation it is. But I think it gives you a sense of once you see the polarity in the situation, because when people are like, well, how do I stop vices? And it's like, well, it's ultimately a choice. You can choose right now. You can just let it go cold turkey, or keep doing that vice as many times as you can, feel like crap, and compare it to how you feel. Then you can, it's a clear black and white choice. Then you go, okay, well, no, I'm done with that. And you start on the right
Correct.
path,
The worst
right?
thing is procrastinating. The worst thing is having the fear of taking new challenges. The worst thing is, excuse me, letting time, which is your most expensive commodity, go by and
That's
no
it.
change happens.
We can
And
get a
the
whole
thing is,
conversation about time.
yeah, when you are young, you don't value time. When you're older, you value time. But if you're young and you value time, imagine what an amazing life you could have.
That's the first thing I tell people when they're asking me about money. I said, well, how do you manage your time? How do you value your time? If they're showing up late and there are all these things, I'm like, you have no chance.
Yeah,
Time is more
exactly.
important. Time is more important than money. So if you want money, you have to first start with your time.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, what about, I know you have the 12 principles in your gladiator program, because a lot of people give the what but not the how, and that's why I believe in principles, because the principles give you the how, and that the principles create a repeatable process for success,
Correct.
right? What are some of the main principles, or what are the, say, top three principles
I would
that you
say
would say?
honesty, perseverance, loyalty is very important to me. I was thinking about why do I demand loyalty so much? Again, when you're an entrepreneur, you put your head on that chopping block a lot of times, and few times the guillotines come in, and it's been very painful. And if you have loyal people in your inner circle, it avoids the pain. So the pain of coming across loads of new people and they could potentially hurt you, especially when you're in a giving world. Okay, it can be too much after a period of time. So I made a decision that I was going to live with an open heart, but I wasn't going to meet so many new people. So I'm going to have gatekeepers, yes, but I'm going to live with an open heart. I'm going to love everyone. And I'm just a little tired of being hurt, right? To be disappointed. So a gladiator, they were spiritual beings. They meditated, they ate well, they practiced, and they went into battle. And that battle could be a sales meeting, it could be an interview, it could be anything, you know. But now, thank God, when we go to battle, we don't die. We're not killed. 2,000 years ago, when you to battle, you could, if you lost, you'd die. So the question is whether you want to live a life of lost battles and die a frustrated life, or do you just want to go with a bang? Right? That's your call. I know which one I would like to have.
That's why I got the man in the arena quote,
Yeah. Yeah,
right? It's
exactly.
the credits due to the man in the arena, not the guy pointing the finger on the outside,
Yeah, exactly.
right?
And the
Yeah,
fact is,
that.
in the old days, the more people you entertained, the freer you got, right?
What do you
So
mean?
if you were an entertainer as a gladiator, people, and if you lost, the crowd can vote for you not to be killed because you entertained them. And the more people you entertain, like the movie, the freer you got. So bring it the clock forward 2,000 years. We kind of, most of us are born financial slaves, right? And then we go into meetings, we open up a bank account or a business, and the first thing they say to you, don't worry, 80% of businesses go bust anyway. In the second year, 80% of that 20% goes bust. You'll be lucky to make it. So imagine 2,000 years ago, somebody said, here's a sword and a shield. Good luck. 99% of people will not make it. What would your life be like? So I think practicing your maneuvers, being prepared for the battlefield is really, really important. Yes. Consistency, believing in miracles, because miracles happen to us everywhere. And if you're not open to it, you won't spot the miracles. And I'm a walking, talking miracle. And I live in
That's interesting.
abundance.
That's interesting because I
Yes.
think the
I live
three.
in gratitude. I beg your pardon, gratitude.
Yeah, well, both. You can't have abundance without gratitude because then
True.
you'll never build. I think the gratitude is the foundation. Without that, it's never going to be enough. Going back to the kids, right? If your kids aren't grateful, why should you keep giving them more? You're like, oh, this isn't going to go
Correct.
anywhere. This isn't going to help
Correct.
build them up. Yeah, it builds a foundation. I think
Very.
what I was seeing when you're talking about the three principles, it really comes back to trust. That's the ultimate one. And you need trust in a business relationship. You need trust in an intimate relationship.
And respect, right? Trust and respect. Respect, often people told me, why do you care so much about respect? Okay. Because I think respect and trust go hand in hand. Because, if you don't respect someone, you can mistreat them. Yes, you can lose trust. You have to be a good communicator. Be very clear um, with your, and be open to listening to the rules of the game. Because most people are decent human beings, but they lose trust because they just didn't know the game. They didn't know the rules of the game, so they step on boundaries. Right? If you say to me, "Look, Darius, punctuality is important to me, and I'm consistently late," I've let you down. I've lost the trust. But if you start off and we just start, Maniana, who cares? I come and go late. And then suddenly you go, Darius, you pissed me off. I don't want you to be my friend anymore because punctuality is important to me. I'm like, why didn't you tell me from the beginning?
Right.
You see? So I think a lot of people get into relationships and they mean well, good intentions, but trust goes because they weren't clear with what their boundaries were and what their values were, what their rules were.
Yeah, but you have to come in a relationship. I believe in a relationship, both people have to give 100% no matter what it is: time, energy, money, skills, resources, whatever they have. I think the best relationships do that. As soon as somebody gives 100 and the other person gives 70, the relationship falls apart, right? So
And it could be
it's,
timing. It could be timing, like
yeah,
today I was talking to my wife and she didn't give me any attention. Then I looked back and I was like, well, she was on her phone, right? She was on her phone. So why did I get upset? Yeah, I shouldn't expect her to drop the phone down and give me a focus, right? So often it's
yeah.
timing, circumstances, right?
Hmm.
We shouldn't judge people by our own values. That's really, I think
Expectations,
it's
yeah.
really, really, yeah,
Yeah,
expectations. And the reason people get
expectations and
pissed
opinions.
off because things don't get aligned to their expectations. Things always don't fall out to work out the way you want them to.
I think it's also, I say this all the time, and my experience with the relationships is the capacity to love. And I think a lot of people's capacity is here, and your capacity to love has to be here, then here. It always has to keep growing, expanding. Because if you have very strict expectations or opinions about how things have to be, then as soon as somebody steps out of line, you'll get, upset, and it's going to
Yeah, it's
hit a soft
sensitive.
point. Yeah, you'll be real sensitive. So it's going,
Yeah, I'm
going back to God.
extremely sensitive because I'm a highly valued human being, right? But I realize that if I don't share my values with the other person, they're always going to step all over my values. So I'm always going to be disappointed. I'm always going to be sad. I'm always going to be sensitive, right? And there's
Well,
no harm
it's
in being
funny.
sensitive. Yes.
On the tree of life here behind me, we have the masculine and the feminine pillar, and this is all, how these energies weave in together to ultimately create. And what you're saying is the boundaries and the principles, right? And that's the more feminine side. That's a
Hmm.
container. It says, here are my boundaries, and then we have communication down here. And that's a tough thing for people. A lot of people struggle with setting, self-worth, setting boundaries, and communicating those boundaries to be able to actually weave things together.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that comes from childhood experiences. Yesterday, my secretary said to me, Friday, she said to me, Mr. Darish, I've been with you 3 months now, and I really couldn't handle it when he said to me, I love you. Because she always associated a romantic attachment to the word love. And because I realized when you say you love me, it's a greater love because you love me unconditionally as a human, as a being.
Yeah.
So, that's really beautiful. And we attach meanings to things, right? We should just let go and just enjoy the process and
Yeah.
focus on yourself.
Right. We call that agape love. It's like a more expansive love.
Right.
That's just
Beautiful.
love for it. Yeah, love for it. Is that your assistant
Do you
Yana?
hold courses? Do you hold courses, Michael?
Yes, I have in person. I work with some people online, but I prefer to have people in person. It's just way, way better results in person, once I can
So,
see
so
you and be
what
in
do
your
you
energy.
do? What do you do exactly? Tell me.
Spiritual guides to help people progress on their spiritual path, know themselves, connect more to the divine, their purpose, and how to weave that into their lives. So we
So
go back to,
where'd you get into that? You're so young, and how did you get into that spiritual path?
yeah, similar, so I liked a lot of things I saw when I was reading your bio, but similar to, most people that have the desire to serve people. When I was 5 years old, I can connect this to the gladiators. This was this vision I had. When I was 5 years old, I realized I'm like, life is pretty messed up and everyone's running around with their heads off. They're like zombies. Like nobody really gets it. Like nobody has clear answers. So
Hmm.
when I was 5 years old, I had this dream or vision of myself, almost like a gladiator. This is what it looked like. going through life for 20 plus years, just getting arrows shot at me, just getting destroyed, just beat up. And then when I was in my late 20s, I saw myself almost on a stage just speaking to people. And the idea I had in my head is I need to find out truth and how to live a good life and share that with people. And one of the ways I thought was, okay, I'm going to write a book when I'm older. I almost failed English class all the time. I'm really good at math and science. And
It's like me, I'm dyslexic.
right. And it wasn't until, I did go through those dark years and just getting kind of like a gladiator, almost getting shot at and beat down. And it wasn't until what re-sparked that desire was a few months before my daughter was born. I was like, okay, well, now it's black or white. It's either, it's figure it out or don't figure it out. It's like, which one are you going to do? And that was, I tell guys all the time, commitment, kids, marriage, like that's going to change your life. And for me, that's really what it was. And that pushed me
How
way
old's your daughter
harder.
now?
She'll be 7 in June.
Oh, congratulations! You don't look old
Yeah.
enough.
No, she was an early child. I'm 30 years old now. I'll
Oh,
be 31 soon.
congratulations! Beautiful.
But thank you. But yeah, that's what it is. And I aligned with the teachings I have now. It's Hermetic, so it's universal principles and beyond, religion and stuff, because I believe religion just all talks about the same thing. So principles to me are more unifying. They're more clear. And when you actually test them out, they really work. So this is the book, The Kabbalion. It's in Hermetic philosophy. So it has 7 universal principles, but I love principles, whether it's in business and health and
Can you show me
anything.
that title again so I can spell it correctly?
Yeah, The Kabbalion.
Thank you. IBA. Thank you.
And yeah, so once, I feel like when you're discovering truth, it's a remembrance. There's a lot of light bulbs that go off, right? It just clicks and it just lands. You're like, oh, that was that missing piece,
Yeah. Yeah.
piece of the puzzle. And when you
Yes.
have that missing piece, then you have a tool and you can use that tool and actually have power and actually build the thing, right? Without those missing pieces, you can't actually utilize it. So yeah, anything, if it's business,
Good.
health, relationships, I always look for the principles. Anyone that I know that's hyper successful in business, they always go back to the principles, go back to the basics, go back to the boring stuff. All this other fancy smancy whatever, it's a waste of energy. It doesn't work.
I agree with everything, and congratulations. What I find strange is that when you don't have anything on, you're young, you always look at successful people and you think, I want to be like them. Rarely I meet someone that I want to be like. That's interesting. I see somebody with wealth, they haven't got there maybe in the right manner, or I see wealth and they're not attached, or they don't have a loving family, or I see wealth and they egotistic, or I think that somebody should pick best of different people.
Yeah.
I think there's one person who has everything. You look at Elon Musk, I was like, oh, I really admire the guy. And now look at him, what he's doing now. I'm like, oof. Everybody has little quirks and strengths and weaknesses. And we should see people for what they are and not make them heroes and they can't do anything wrong. That's where we fail. That we just think one person has everything, all the boxes ticked. And there's nobody like that, in my opinion.
No, I think everybody creates their own individual archetypes, finding the gold in the bad and discerning and finding those pieces. I have this all the time. I love you that you said that, because I have plenty of teachers that I look up to, but it's not the stuff, it's always the qualities that I admire in them, right? One of the things, the biggest things that always inspires me is good fathers, number one, right? And because it's what a good father has way more qualities that I desire as well too, right? Especially for guys, I think the number one quality for guys is commitment, right? Good fathers are always committed, and then you see that how they
Desire it. Women desire a committed man they can trust and rely on. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's a big struggle now for guys, is because there's so much lack of clarity. It's interesting when you probably get this as well too, the guys that work with you, they've lacked a good like male figure or father figure in their lives.
Yeah.
And now they have to go get it. It's unfortunate, but I'm glad they're realizing that, because I think that's really what the world needs more of. And that's why I really push this on my podcast and my messages. Like, we need good fathers. And there's a lot of miscommunication now about, men don't need to commit and they can have all these women, blah, blah, whatever. And I'm like, yeah, but just because we can doesn't mean we should. Right? Because
I think this goes back a full circle to how we started. It's about, life is just too easy to walk away. Yes. We get everything too easily. Hundreds of years ago, for the first time, really now, human beings and human race have abundance. But before that, we had to graft at everything, right? So to protect our family, to farm the field and hide the food and protect the animals, and we worked towards it, right? So we valued it more. Now it's like, well, if I want to meet a different girl, I just sign up to Tinder and swipe to the left and swipe to the right, and why do I need to work at it? Why do I need to work towards the relationship? Why do I need anything? Unfortunately, I meet a lot of single moms who their men have they were in their trousers because their men have let them down, and they've disappeared. They don't even contribute towards the kids. They don't even fancy how the kids are. And I had a friend of mine I used to do business with, and he had a child, and he hadn't supported him, and hadn't met him like twice in 7 years. I did a lot of work with him, and he let me down. And afterwards, I was like, why am I surprised? If somebody can't even be bothered seeing their own son, why should I expect him to have any form of loyalty towards me? Right? So
Yeah.
it was there, but I was happy that I did the best I could. But why should I be surprised that he let me down? Because he lets his own son down, right?
Hmm.
And somewhere along the way, he's got to reflect, and he's got to look back and think, now that son is, I think, in his 20s now, right? So what's their relationship, unfortunately?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think I always say the commitment gives you, that's what gives you the superpower in life, right?
correct,
Is the
correct.
commitment. We were actually in my group last night. We had a meeting, and we were talking about the purpose of structure, because a lot of people between structure and chaos, right? Chaos is think of, you can't have too much of either one though, but if you have chaos and just, okay, I'm just going to live my life and have this freedom, but I don't really have structure or plan, well, then that's the illusion of freedom, right? Because the structure is actually going to lead to the freedom. Everything's a paradox, right?
Absolutely.
So, and it was interesting reflection around that with the group. And but yeah, that's what we really came back to, is like, you need structure if you want to achieve higher aspirations. Kind of being a hippie and just floating around, not really taking anything serious, not committing, and just
Mm.
enjoying life is, it's an illusion, right? So it really comes.
Tony Robbins talks about certainty and uncertainty. Structure can be boring, so
Mhm.
people add excitement to their lives, and then too much excitement can take the quality of your life away. So you need a balance. Everything's about balance.
Well, it's a flow. That's why, going back to this, is the tree of life. There's you're not, if you're one side, you're too rigid, right? So it's, sort of understand the nuance of life, and okay,
You
this
like
situation
water.
caused. What's
Yeah.
that?
You like water.
Yeah,
Yeah,
water,
you're
but water has to
flowing.
be,
Yeah,
no, but water has to be structured too to actually have power, right? But
that's
so
true.
it's think of a parenting situation, right? Being severe and more merciful to your kid. Depending on the situation, maybe you have to give them some tough love, more structure, more discipline. But sometimes just, hey, just let me pour into my children, just give them as much love as possible, and
Well, you can
you
be
know,
tough and still love them, right?
yeah,
And you can
exactly.
say, I'm pissed off with you, but I still love you. That doesn't take the fact away that you upset me, but I love you, and you're never going to take that love away. I have four beautiful kids, and thank you, God. And my mom says, "Oh, you're lucky with your kids." I said, "You can't be lucky with four kids, right? Give me some credit." And
Yeah.
I think that credit is the fact that I just love them all the time. I love them so much, you know, and I can't get rid of them. They're messaging me every day. They're in relationships where they're life enhancing. They're not getting into relationships where it fills a gap or a hole in their lives. Yeah, they're complete, and they look for people, whether it's business or personal, to fulfill, to enhance their lives, not to replace something that's missing.
Right. Yeah, it's coming together, then creating that thing, not
Yeah,
not dragging
yeah,
each other down.
correct.
Jumping back, because you said something really good that I want to touch on, I think is extremely important for anybody. You said going through life with an open heart. You still have boundaries and gatekeepers, but you keep your heart open. And I think that's a really good lesson for people, because now I see a lot of people, anybody who's not growing, progressing, is because they're not able to receive. They're not able to receive the energy to actually build them up to actually, face their challenges, do the
They
things,
are
and step.
so protective of being
Yeah,
hurt. They're so
right.
protected. They've got walls. And unfortunately, nobody, or even themselves, lose themselves, right? And nobody will get to know them for who they really are.
Yeah, because
There's
I
just
mean,
too
when you're
many
closed off,
walls.
you also can't. when you're closed, you also can't share anything other.
Correct.
Yeah, you can't share
I'm
anything either.
58 and I'm like a child, I've got this childlike mentality. And in business, although you need certainty to close deals, a lot of people want to do business with me because of that energy. I don't sit in front of somebody and go, yeah, here we go, another consultation. I go, no, tell me about your life. I'm really interested. And that childlike enthusiasm gets them to like and trust you and want to do business with you.
Yeah, I think going through life with a closed heart. Well, people are scared because they say, "Well, you have to keep your heart open, right? You have to be able to take a hit, and you have to be able to heal, right? Because the open heart is ultimately going to give you the power. Even a warrior is going to still lead with an open heart. That's going to be his power. But then when he has to heal, he'll still heal and then go. We have in the school I teach with, we have a warrior path and a healer path. And I don't know if you've ever studied the Knights Templar. You're familiar with the Knights Templar?
Yes, I am familiar, but I haven't studied.
Right. And back in King Solomon's time, he cross-trained his warriors. So his warriors are also healers, right? Because
Wow.
you need both of those energies, right? If you're just a warrior and you go fight, fight, fight all the time,
Yeah,
you hit the wall and you just destroy yourself, right? So you have to
yeah.
be able to heal, to be open, to continue to
Wow,
grow, right? So
wow, wow.
it's like the warrior goes out and fights and creates the space, and the healer brings in that loving
And
energy
that's
to actually
beautiful.
grow.
I listened to Robin Sharma a couple of months ago, and he said this. He said one of the biggest problems is that people don't give themselves enough time to heal or recharge their batteries and recoup. That's really interesting. Yeah, beautifully put.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
because you need both. It's like think about the gym, right? We push, we work out
Hmm.
really, really hard. We're creating that potential, that space to grow into, but then the healing, the pulling back, that's what's actually growing the muscle, right? It's not
Correct.
fighting all the
Correct.
time, right? So, and I see people all the time. They just go, 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 hustle, go really hard. And one of my teachers, this was a issue for me in my 20s, and one of my teachers sat me down. He said, "Look, imagine working out all the time, right? We have polarity, kind of the good and bad, the strong and the weak. If you're only pushing super hard all the time, he's like, polarity becomes a circle. So you're super strong, but if the strong person who never heals eventually gets hurt, now they're weak. Think of
Wow.
the wealthy person that spends all their money, now they're broke. Right. So it's that's another thing of knowing sort of
Mm-hmm.
your own rhythm, having foresight into that.
True. That's
It's another
interesting. Yeah,
yeah,
beautiful.
another thing principles give you is you have more foresight, right?
Yeah,
You have
absolutely
more
beautiful.
understanding what's to
No,
come.
really, congratulations to you for being so wise at such a young age. I'm proud of you. Your
Well,
future's
thank you.
very bright,
Hopefully, yeah.
and
It's
your daughter's a lucky girl.
yeah, it's appreciate it. It's I think my mission is just help people know themselves. I think that's the best thing we can do, right? Because if you know yourself, there's no limitation,
Yes.
and there's two parts to that. The more we connect to ourselves, the more we connect to God, and vice versa. And that's ultimately our power source, right?
And
And I
how
think
come you reached out? Why did you reach out to me in Dubai? How did our paths cross?
I just liked what I saw. I saw your Instagram. I think it really radiates through all your stuff. Right? It doesn't come off as there's no a lot of people, you look at their social media, there's almost like an agenda, right? It's always somebody trying to sell you something, and it's just there's a different feel. That
Thank
was
you.
like, okay,
I
I was
just try
really
to be authentic, and first of all, well done for you reaching out. I try to be authentic and share my vulnerability without fear. And people say that they say I felt that your realness, and I think the audience in the market worldwide is tired of being shouted at. Rah rah, effing and blinding and this and that. I'm like, you know what? I've been in that room, but I'm thinking I can't I don't want to have a six pack. I don't want to be getting up at 4 in the morning in the gym and being hard and push. I like balance, and
yeah.
I think I like to appeal to most of the people in the room, who are average. They're not necessarily fantastic at anything, but they just have a desire to have a better life.
Right. That's why that's kind of my question before, when we were talking about, like, people walking around as zombies. I believe that, deep down, whether aware of it or not, that people do want to grow and progress, right? I think that's how we're created, continues to grow and progress. But I look at life as, why are we doing what we're doing, right? Is because we want to grow. The energy of love is what helps us grow and progress. And I think that's what everyone's desire is. That's why everyone gets sidetracked so much, is because we're trying to achieve that thing, but it gets distorted. So we take the lesser version of that thing, right? If
We
somebody's,
allow it. We allow it to distract
yeah,
us. We allow the
And
noise to derail us.
well, what you said too is being in a room is everything we do, we're not doing for the material stuff. We're doing for the feeling it gives us, right? So if you can give people that feeling, then you have access to actually help them grow, right? I think once you're able to really, like you're saying, there's people that rah rah just yell, get up at 4 a.m., get abs, stuff like that. It's like that just, but to me, I'm like that person just doesn't love themselves. They're not going to be able to share it with anybody else.
And
And
you and I know it won't last.
no, no, no. It's
It's
like
just a phase.
yeah, it's just a phase. And actually, I've said this a million times. I see what's happening with people who are showing up on social media, the authentic ones that actually give value. I believe those people are going to really have a really big upswing in the next 5 years. The people who are just low integrity, just kind of selling just to, for their own
They'll be
personal gain.
gone.
I think they're going to get, by,
Agree.
give it 5 years, they're all going to be wiped out. Right.
And I think movements like yours and I are going to do very, very well because people will see it now. People will go, right, you putting me on this course, you put me in this event, and you're going to put me in a vulnerable place so I can spend some money with you. Right.
Mhm.
And people are wisening up and seeing who's real, who's authentic, who's not. Definitely.
You're saying, well, because some people, some people think some people think the world's ending. I mean, my perspective on that is a lot of crazy stuff is happening because so much good stuff is happening. And what's happening is you're able to see a divide. You're able to see more clearly between good and bad, right? So more of the good stands out, but unfortunately, there's more negative energy to access, and I think it's going back to why do people dip into the negative easier? I think it's just potential,
I
and it is
think,
harder.
correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm not going to mention too many people or anything like this, names. It's almost like we're all children and the bully in the yard is ruling the school. And majority of people don't want to confront the bully, right? And people are being disrespected, they're being bullied, and it's just like, I'll let you bully. Unfortunately, if you look at the history of the planet, the fascists and the bullies and stuff like this, they've prospered when the majority stood by and let it happen. That's the sad part. Also, for the first time in the human race, we've been monitored. How we speak, how we think, what we do, so they can come hard on us. Although they say that it's free speech, right? I mentioned the US president, not in a derogatory way, but I got a warning from Google on my YouTube page, right? And I didn't even say anything derogatory, yes? So we're being monitored all the time, and I hope and pray that the future generations leave the planet in a better place, and I think they will, than we're currently leaving them, right? Because all human beings are equal, irrespective of color, religion, where they're born. Just because I'm born on this side doesn't make me have the right over your land. And if I'm born on this side, it gives you the right to kill me and torture me and take all my freedom away. Treat people with dignity and integrity, and they'll treat you the same way back. It's my opinion.
Yeah, no, I believe that. What do you think the difference is? I did a podcast with Bradley. He's been at your events, right?
Bradley and I don't see eye to eye.
Okay, that's why I'm asking this question.
We don't see eye to eye. You know
I
why?
think,
He again, I love Brad. I really do. But we just don't see eye to eye.
mhm. But
He's a white male alpha, don't give a F. But end of the day, he does. He's very vulnerable,
yeah.
but he doesn't show it. He's one of the most nicest, most vulnerable human beings I know, but he doesn't show it. He's got walls, right? And him and I don't see eye to eye. And
We
recently, I went on his, I think you may have seen, I commented and I got so much love and hate from his followers. Yes, because of the kind of remarks he was making on his social media page.
his remarks to about you, or how'd that work?
No, it was about what's happening right now is right. What's wrong with you? Why don't you allow this to happen? Right? And to
Well,
me,
we got into a little back and forth. I know what he was trying to do, but I wanted to ask you the same question because I think it's just interesting. What is the difference between the people who have and the people who don't have? Because the disagreement with Brad and I got into a bit of wording. We were talking about the same thing.
he likes words. He likes words.
he got very hung up on words. We were talking about the
Yeah.
real name of
I
Jesus.
used the word gratitude or humble, and it was like, I hate the word humble. Come on now. Yeah.
Yeah. But we got
Splitting it.
into the difference between somebody who has and doesn't have. And I said, basically merit, right? It's earned power. It's through taking the responsibility. The person who doesn't have hasn't taken the responsibility,
Well, have
right?
what? That's the question. Have what? That'll be my question.
Who has taken the responsibility to have power in their life, whichever way, depending, the fruits are going to look different. But the person who is growing and progressing compared to the person who is stuck, maybe that's why the disagreement. I said, well, you have to earn that just like anything else. Everything in life has to, the potential can be sitting right in front of you, but you have to go and work at that and earn it to get to that place. And to clarify, I said, well, think about somebody who's at the bottom of the business or the top of the business. What's the difference? That person worked their way up and took the responsibility. The person who's staying down here doesn't want to take the responsibility. The potential and the path is still there, but the person has to empower themselves to go take
At the
those
same time, it
steps.
might have been just given to them, right? They have it because it was just landed on their lap, right? They were
Yeah.
born into it. So I think ultimately everything is about love. Ultimately, everything is about love. And I like to think that people have true love, they've earned it, right? And people who say they have love and have empty lives, yes, they're bullshitters, right?
Yeah.
They know when they I call it the bathroom moment, when they go to bed and all the hats are down and they're not a father or a businessman or a online guru, and wife's in bed, they close the bathroom cabinet, and they take a look at themselves and they have an honest dialogue. That honest dialogue should say, you were a great guy today or a great lady. Right? Instead of saying, oh, I bullshitted my way today, I pretended or cringe, right? Because
Well,
at the
don't
end
you
of the
think
day,
that's
you've got to have an honest conversation with yourself. And not
and
many people do.
don't you think that's people's biggest fear? I would say people's biggest fear is themselves, the fear of their own
Yeah, of
potential.
course.
It's they're here, they know their potential is here because stepping into that unknown, it's not unknown, it's just a new part of you. You haven't
Yeah,
experienced and you haven't had that experience to actually integrate. Once you integrate and have that feeling, then it just becomes part of who you are
natural.
and you
Normal. Yeah.
yeah,
And then you step out again out of your comfort zone. You step out again out of your comfort zone. Step. It's self belief and self worth, right? So you know what? I deserve to go on an aeroplane and turn left instead of going to economy. And instead of saying those are lucky people, I said, what do I have to do to get myself to fly business? And then when you fly business, what do I have to do to go first? Private. Yeah. So you're only as good as the questions you ask yourself and the actions you take.
yeah. I love the questions. I can tell if somebody's on a call with me, I can tell how successful they'll be with either working with me or whatever, depending on the depth of their questions,
Yes.
right?
Instead of
If you're,
bullshit statements, instead of defeatist, statements,
yeah,
right?
that's really interesting.
Yeah.
So I appreciate your time. We're about to wrap
Thank
up,
you.
but
It's been a pleasure, Michael.
to
Thank you for reaching out.
one final question though, how would you define success? I think you just answered it with what you said before,
Yeah,
but
I think if you put your head on that pillow and you thank God for the day you've had, and you say, God, if I don't wake up tomorrow, I hope I served you, and put your head on that pillow and sleep safely and soundly. That's success.
yeah, cool.
And
I
then you
believe
wake
it's
up in
it.
the morning and go, thank you, God, for everything that you've given me, my family, my love, the air in my lungs. And I will promise I'll do the best I can today to serve as many people as possible. That's success, right? You start putting your head on that pillow, worrying and being concerned and sleepless nights. That's not success.
Yeah, I agree with that. And the way I would say it is fulfilling your higher desires, right? Which would
Mm.
be more aligned with your purpose. We have higher desires and lower desires, right?
Yeah. See,
But
you're
yeah,
on a deeper level. I would say on a very shallow level. It's like you put your head on that and you sleep well. You just sleep
yeah,
well. You think, and then you look into it. Yes, absolutely. When everything's aligned, right? When everything's aligned and you're in harmony.
yeah. It's a easier said than done, but
Very. Life's hard. Life's hard.
yeah,
And as gladiators or warriors, we've got to, rise to that level and battle and win.
yeah.
Yes.
No, that's a good thing. I mean, life's hard, and that's why love is so necessary and sharing that love with people because kind of going what you're saying, the yelling, the toughness all the time, that doesn't really build people. It's the love that ultimately builds people.
The guy who goes around wants to start fights is the guy who can't fight. The guy
Yeah,
who's got seventh Dan black belt is the guy who's just the calmest dude because he can kill you with his little finger. Why does it need to show off, right? So
there's a funny video I'll try to send you about that. But yeah, that's what it is. The guy that always has to show wealth or strength or whatever. He doesn't everything nothing. It's I was talking about that last week, and somebody, what do you mean? And I was like, yeah, the guy's flashing and talking about what he has. It's always the quiet guys, the humble guys that are going to kick your ass or outwork you, or you know, you never know.
do you know one thing is that it's crazy that I don't understand. I've interviewed several billionaires, and you find out that they're in constant court battles with people. People are taking advantage of people they've screwed, they're taking revenge, and I'm like, and they sleep fine. And I don't want to have a life like that. I don't want to be sued or uncertainty. I just want to be a good human being, an outstanding human being, and that's all that matters.
I was reading a book by Walter Waddles. He wrote books in the early 1900s, maybe the late 1800s. I think early 1900s. He passed in 1950, I believe. But he has books basically on like how to live a good life, health, relationships, all this stuff. And I think that what you just said about the guys that are constant court battles, it's competitive compared to collaborative success, right? Those guys, because they think everybody's against them, they work
Yes.
harder. It's not that they don't have the right intention, it's just misguided. So they're always like, hey, let me fight in battle, get myself ahead, and kind of
And
like, oh,
also,
there's
I spoke to Grant Cardone. I interviewed Grant Cardone, and for whatever reason, for 2 nights afterwards, I couldn't sleep. Okay, and I was like, "Why is it that I can't sleep?" And he said, in our chats off the record, he said, "Dariush, as long as it serves me and my family, I'll do it." Okay, and I was like, "God,
what do you mean?
I wanted to serve others. He'll take on a project as long as it's self-serving, right?"
Hmm.
And to me, it has to serve others first, and I know I do well. Because that's why I couldn't sleep for 2 nights. It was a subtle comment he made, but it wasn't going down well with me, right? And I was like, that's the reason, because I know if I can make other people do well, I will ultimately do well. I don't wake up in the morning saying, as long as I'm okay, as long as I'm all right, as long as it's in it for me.
Well, it's this disconnection to others, which is ultimately a disconnected connection to God, right? If we're all
Yeah,
connected through God, it's self-serving is only hurting yourself,
yeah.
unfortunately. It's, we talk a lot. I talk about relationship. You have a few minutes, like 5 more minutes?
Sure, sure.
Okay. I
Yeah,
talk a
I've
lot
got
about, I talk
3%
about,
of battery on my laptop.
oh, 3% battery?
Yeah,
Okay, I'll try to wrap up quick because this
no
might
problem.
die.
I'm
He's
enjoying
still
this.
up. But relationships is a huge thing. You talk about relationships on social media, everybody goes crazy, right? But what does a relationship create? It's the two parts together create that trinity, which creates God is the fruit of that relationship, right? So if it's only about us, we can never come together and actually create divinity,
Very true.
And I think that's where people, if they're in the illusion of self-serving success, is they never have that face-to-face connection with God because there's
And if
always
you don't
that
get
wall, that
divinity,
separation.
you're always going to be chasing. You're
Yeah,
always going to be
exactly.
unhappy.
Yeah, so
And that's the ultimate goal.
I think that is why in a relationship it is to serve, to give. And people are like, well, why should I do that? Because, they retreat back into this fear, this self-serving fear. It's like, because the more you serve, the more you receive, right? Sort of what I was saying before, you
Yeah,
have
one
to,
thing I don't understand. And also, it served those people well, so why change, right? So, it served me well. It got me my helicopter, it got me my plane, so I won't change. I'll carry on doing what I've always done. But for you and I, and we're looking for that, divineness, we're thinking, well, we see emptiness, right? We see there's
yeah.
areas where you can have more fulfillment.
Hmm. Hey, would you be able to plug your laptop in so it doesn't die, so we don't lose it?
Yeah, we could, we
The
could, we could, we could.
Oh, it's plugged in?
No, it'll be good now. Well, I got extra battery charge or something.
Okay, yeah.
I've got it.
Sometimes
I've got it up
I've
to
had
20% extra.
okay, yeah, I had a battery die one time. This guy's battery died, so we lost the whole episode. So
No, 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 no.
we covered some good stuff, so I want to make sure it
Sure,
gets
sure,
out
sure.
there.
I've really enjoyed it. Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I think this is sort of what I was expecting. There's certain people you just know it's going to be a good conversation with, and you'll be able to go deep
Yeah, I
and
enjoyed it. Thank you.
really highlight some good stuff. So when is
Calming,
your
beautiful. Nice.
When's your gladiator event? When's the next one?
I'm not thinking of having another one. I probably won't have another one.
Oh, okay. Well,
I've
do you
done
have
it.
any?
I've proved it. I've got 3,000 people in the room. They loved it. I look at the video and it gets me all emotional because we created a very safe environment for 3,000 people to be themselves. And I just proved it, and if somebody comes and gives me the money and says, I'll sponsor you for a couple of $1 million, you run the show, I will do another one and probably get 10,000 people in the room. But to put my own money and 3, 4 months of stress, I'd
Yeah.
rather go to Maldives. I'll earn more money sitting in Maldives on a holiday. Yeah, cashing in my residual income. So, yeah,
Cool. All right.
there probably won't be another one. But do please promote my book. I love to come to some book signings in America. It's
Oh
doing
yeah.
really well here.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I'm in Fort Lauderdale. So, have you been to Florida much? Probably.
Yes, of course. I come to Florida every year.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Miami. It's the I like. Well, actually, you're in Dubai. I'm in South Florida near Miami. It's like I think those are the two biggest hubs in the world culturally.
Yeah.
There's
I love it. I came last March. I stop in Miami to go to Mexico because I have a timeshare in Mexico, Cancun. So I always stop at Miami. Last year, I stopped in Miami to go to see Richard Branson on his island. And the weather in Miami was beautiful. It was gorgeous. I fell in love with it.
Yeah, it's another place. A lot of beauty and a lot of craziness here. It's
Yeah. I didn't say any
it's just
craziness, but I don't
no,
want to. I don't
no,
want
yeah,
to. I'm happy.
cool, perfect. Well, appreciate you. Thank you for
Namaste.
coming on. Thank you for the patience with the technical difficulties in the beginning. So
Not at all. Much love to you, my
awesome,
friend.
man.
Keep in touch. Thank you, Michael.